Ravens at Cowboys, man. Ravens coming in 0-2 with the Cowboys 1-1. We have Baltimore favored by 1 in the Cowboys' house, even though they're 0-2. We have a 47.5 point over under. So expecting still some scoring here with these offenses, but also, pretty good defenses as well, too. So players that I want to talk about here. We're starting a lot of guys. Obviously, we're starting Lamar, we're starting Dak, Lamb, Andrews, Flowers, and Derrick Henry. Anything to say about those guys? Are you firing them all up, or anyone you have on the edge?
No, you're firing them up. I just think, again, you've just got to make sure that Derrick Henry scores a touchdown. That's it.
Yeah, but you can't not have
You're still starting them.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple guys here that might be, guys we're talking about. Isiah Likely obviously popped off huge that first week, big waiver wire ad of week 1, and then kind of went a little silent here week 2. What do we expect here in week 3?
I'll be honest. I don't know what to expect. I just looking at Mark Andrews from last week, he was 63% snap share, 5 targets, caught 4 of them, 51 yards. Wasn't stellar. I said on my show earlier this week, I was concerned about I was on a different podcast where I said this. So I was concerned about the quote unquote old tight end ones, Andrews and Kelsey. I think the volume suggests that you can look at flexing Likely. That you can play him in the tight end spot. I wouldn't flex him. He's not emerged really as that number 2 receiver, but I just don't know what to do with him. I think again the tight end landscape is so thin. If you're the Jake Ferguson owner and he doesn't play, if you're the George Kittle owner who's now trending towards doubtful and Likely is the backup tight end that you drafted, I think you're playing him and hope you get a week 1 result. I think if you have a better option, go with the better option, and if he pops off, that sucks. But the reality is you just don't know how it's going to go with this usage. And the Dallas defense is still the Dallas defense at home.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at, man. I mean, just like you said, given just the freaking landscape of tight ends, regardless of what has happened, I still have him as my, tight end 10. Interestingly enough, I couldn't find really too many people to put ahead of him. Like, I'd rather play him than Fairmuth or Henry, Ertz, Schultz, Gesicki, Taysom Hill, Colby Parkinson. Oh, okay, yeah. So it's like I just can't find anybody else. Like, I wanted to put other people ahead of him. I didn't want to have 2 Ravens tight ends as my, in my top 10 for tight end rankings, but I do. So I think he is, that third target there, behind Andrews and Flowers, who I'm pretty high on Flowers. I've liked what I've seen so far, although it hasn't really resulted in real winning football for the Ravens themselves. But so we'll see, maybe going back to Andrews is, what they need to do. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested to see this game and how it plays out. So many storylines here with this one. Of course, we heard the comments of what Lamar was saying, calling out his own team. Are they even wanting to play as hard as he is? Like, I think he can have a huge game this week. Myself, I actually have him as my QB1 overall this week because of that. And so that's what I'm thinking about likely. Let's talk about Justice Hill. Signs that extension today, little $6 million 2-year extension. So we kind of know what his role is. Obviously, they like him. They looks like he is this third down back. But I have him on here because he could be an interesting play. If a lot of points start scoring and this game script flips a little bit, and it goes up tempo. We're going to see kind of what we saw against the Chiefs week 1 with his usage, and is that flexible if we do see that?
I think if Ferguson sits, Justice Hill becomes more interesting from a pass catching perspective because I still don't rate Brandin Cooks. But excuse me, my brain just went completely backwards. That's the wrong team. Sorry. I'm looking at who we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, that's next.
My brain was like, that's not the right team, buddy. I have him at running back. Let me try that again as well. Boy, what a day.
Yeah, it's okay. It's Friday.
It's Friday, baby. Here we go. Running back 46. So no, I don't have him as a usage play, but I do think in PPR formats, again, if you've lost Pacheco, if you've lost some other guys, then you might have to go there. What I will say is the extension for 2 years and the money does make him a little bit more interesting in dynasty formats. So he's probably not on your waiver wire. I wouldn't trade for him, but just go check your waiver wires. You never know who's out there. It is possible that he's sitting in one of your leagues on the waiver wire and go pick him up. Because again, like you said, that first week against the Chiefs, We liked the usage. It was almost all volume from a passing perspective. I think the question you have to ask yourself is, do you believe the Cowboys are going to get out to a lead? Because if they are, then that's where Hill becomes more interesting. If you believe the game's more in the balance or the Ravens are winning it, then it's going to be pound the rock with Derrick Henry and run it with Jackson. So I don't have him in my lineups this week.
All right. Yeah, and I'm kind of right there with you. I have him just on that borderline of that flex spot. I have him as my running back, 37, right behind Javonte Williams. And you know how I kind of feel about him, but just given his status, quote unquote, in that offense, I felt like I needed to put him ahead of Justice Hill, just with the volume and playing time. But I have him ahead of guys like Rico Dowdle, Bucky Irving, Gus Edwards, even Carson Steele, who I'm not quite sold on. And then Chase Brown and McLaughlin, Devontae Foreman, Braylon Allen, who I kind of had down there, but he had a nice week. But I'd love to be able to talk about that. I can't wait to talk Braylon Allen on Monday. So and Wednesday, I'm sure it'll be a topic. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with him. If you're in a real weird spot, with injuries and things, like I feel kind of okay just given the game script and his usage. And again, being that pass catching back. And again, this is for full PPR leagues more so than even half or non. But yeah, I kind of have him right there on that fringe as, hey, if you got to do it, I'll at least go with this guy over Dowdle at this point in the full PPR league. So, so yeah. All right. So let's move on here. The guy you were trying to talk about first, Brandin Cooks kind of had a little off game last week, if you want to call it that. I think it's just kind of what we expect out of Brandin Cooks. But he is back here at home where I think he's scored out of 8 of the last 9 games at home. Going again up against this Baltimore defense, good secondary. I'm sure that attention is going to be on CeeDee Lamb. Is Brandin Cooks a sneaky little play here this week?
I mean, I'm going to say no. And the simple reason is they got absolutely destroyed by New Orleans in the game last weekend. He played 81% of the snaps. He had 2 targets. In a game where they were losing 41, I think at one point it was 41-10 before they scored that last touchdown. So you're telling me that you can't even get a target in a game where you're losing by 100 points? So no, I'm not going there. If Ferguson doesn't play, this is what I was trying to say earlier. If Jake Ferguson isn't healthy, I still don't want to go there. So unless you absolutely have to, just stay away. I mean, CD says his ankle's fine. I was just looking at some reports while you were doing some quick chatting just to see if there was any breaking updates that I missed.
I didn't have anything. Yeah.
So I haven't seen anything either. So I think CD plays, and I think Ferguson plays this week too. He seems to be trending towards playing. So I love Jake Ferguson in this game. I like CD in this game, and that's really all I want on Dallas.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the guy we're going to talk to next. Yeah, is Ferguson dealing with that knee? Again, like you're saying, from what I'm seeing, looks like he is trending towards the right direction of playing. They said he practiced all week and responded well, which means no setbacks or anything that had them pause for concern as he's ramping back up. And then the thing that I was kind of wrong about last week is actually if Ferguson doesn't play, I don't mind throwing Schoonmaker in there. Because Dak, it just looks likes that tight end position, no matter who it was, going back to the Jason Witten days and, Dalton Schultz before he even knew who Dalton Schultz was. And, just anyone, even Hendershot had a couple big games when Schultz was out, a couple years ago. So, I think just that tight end position is a good spot in this offense for Dak. It's a safety blanket for him. So I'm trying to find a way to get Ferguson in my lineup if he is healthy and if he's not. To me, it's a nice, easy pivot to go Schoonmaker, who should be available for you. So my sits I have Tolbert as a sit, talking Brandin Cooks. I'm not, he had a nice catch. It was a really nice catch, but it was nice and a couple big catches, right? So, but normally Brandin Cooks is the guy getting those. If it starts to become more of a trend, then okay, I'll trend towards the younger Brandin Cooks, if you will. Remember Tolbert was a big thing in the dynasty world a few years ago when he was coming out. And then obviously wasn't even active on the roster, that kind of stuff. And so, he's kind of fallen a little out of favor, I think, with the dynasty owners. Haven't heard much, of him or seen him involved in trades and things like that. You could probably talk more as our dynasty expert on that more than me. But I have him here as a sit, and I still have Bateman as a sit, even though he's my guy. I still have him stash places. There is that opportunity for him to emerge. He had a couple nice catches in the last game, but we'll see what happens there. But I still have him as a sit for now.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect.